wanted to. You could have sit there and said, "Oh, well, on second thought, I don't think I want to."
Well, no, I mean, literally the only reason I decided to just go ahead with it is because my pitch was really good, and I was really proud of what I ended up writing. Because I ended up writing the whole art, like literally, I wrote the draft before I knew what the pay policy was.
Yeah.
So, and in retrospect, I'm fine with that, but I learned, so I learned from the experience, etc., etc. But, oh, cool, I found a new weapon shop. This should help. Wow, there's some expensive shit here. Alright, new shit to grind for. Okay, let's go straight for the steals. Yeah, okay, cool. I just wanna... This is how Dragon Quest games go. Like, you earn a bunch of stuff. Like, you buy you earn a bunch of money, and you feel really great, and then, a new town comes around, that has new equipment, and it's literally, every time you end up spending all of your money.
It's really interesting to see how much RPGs have changed and how much RPGs haven't changed.
Yep, that's always interesting to me.
And you look at it and you're like, oh, geez, alright.
This is funny. It's the same. It's a different kind of town, but it's the same town music as in the initial town.
It's kind of creepy, actually. Everything just has the same town music. You're just like,
Yeah, that's always something that's bothered. That's something in my quote unquote. Hold on, I need to let my dog out. In my quote unquote thesis about. I'm sorry. Hold on a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm gonna go grab a drink real quick now that I'm at it.
Yep.
So my kind of thesis or whatever about JRPG music was that at the beginning, you would have town music, and you would use that for every town of the game, even when the towns were different. And you can see it here. The two towns I'm in are very different, and a lot of that has to do with this being the remake of the game, because they wanted to change stuff up a little bit. But you can see this visual effect hanging over it, there's clouds and that sort of thing. And there's you can see the clouds on the ground, and it might be fog, and this is a forest, whereas the other town was something else entirely. That's a really weird visual effect, actually. I noticed that now. It's very common in Super Nintendo games.
Okay.
But
it's so weird because the clouds only move when you move, so it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really I have a bit of nostalgia for sometimes the ways that games kind of awkwardly expressed themselves as they were growing up. It's kind of interesting how it almost translates to viewing it as childhood, adolescence, puberty, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's like comparing it to teenage poetry or whatever, where it's just this thing is so desperately trying to explain what it means, and it's not all of it's working,
You know what? Like I say it doesn't work, but I say that only assuming that it's trying to do a specific thing. But when I just look at it, just as a singular thing in itself, I do think it's interesting, and that's actually kind of more important to me than something kind of working off that. And I'd say, and I wouldn't say that the idea of it starting from sort of a teenage poem to sort of maturity actually really explains much of the way that games have moved, because I'd say that's actually the opposite. I'd say games have actually become a lot more immature as they've gone on, at least games in certain kinds of spheres. I feel like one of the first games I reviewed for a bigger site was DMC Devil May Cry, and I feel like DMC is a real fucking teenage poem, man. That is a teenage poem, and that game came out
DMC is not. Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm just going to rip on that for a little. Not your phrase, but the game for a second. DMC is not a teenager's poem. DMC is not a young teenager like trying to express like the new feelings they have. It's like the new teenager who just discovered fucking South Park. You know, that's you know, it's just a video game that's like kind of trying to be as offensive as possible while also trying to like say something incredibly simplistic about politics.
It is, and it's so cringy too. But you play some parts of it sitting there thinking, man, like maybe this can actually do something. And there's one section in the game that actually really gave me that hope, but it just kind of throws it out the window. And you're right, it is a really sort of very simplistic, kind of cynical understanding of politics. Like it's just, but that's what I mean in a sense that it feels like it's just like it's so juvenile.
I had to
it's so juvenile in its understanding of how politics work and its opinions about stuff. It's just like it's just like I can't help but just roll my eyes in that game at just everything it does. It's just like it's the worst, and it's just like, but I feel like a lot of games in those spheres tend to do that. They tend to try really hard to position themselves that way. They try really hard to sort of affect this sort of understanding of politics when you know that there's nothing underneath, when it doesn't actually take the energy to really explore those things in a nuanced way. Hold on, I'm gonna get a drink real quick. I'm gonna be back just now.
Hey TJ, are you there? I know he's still on the call. Oh cool, new being is an ocean. Okay, there are stairs. I'll go check out what's up the stairs. Oh, cool, I'm on the other side. Ooh, that's interesting. Cool. Oh, great, I have to relight a torch, though. I don't have that many torches. Damn it, I should have bought more torches. On the plus side, I am ripping through every enemy. Is that you, Zolani?
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Who is this on right now?
Huh?
Okay, alright, I wasn't sure. Yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so what I was going to say, was that, and I said this on a podcast too, that I do with Lana before, it's gonna go up soon, it's just that because I've been having a shitload of trouble editing it, because it's just a bunch of broken pieces everywhere, and I've having trouble like putting them together because a bunch of files and everything's corrupt and missing and whatever. So I'll
Speaking of broken pieces, hey, I'm back.
Hey!
Hey, Chicha, we were just talking about you, man. Oh, jeez.
That's good.
We were saying that, we thought about it, and I just can't find the joy in Lansing.
You can't?
Yeah, it's just like, we were just saying, like, man, that fucking TJ guy, man. Just like,
I mean,
fucking guy.
Jeez, like,
I hit him in the mouth sometimes.
Honestly, so I mean, what I was saying before was that so I mean, the thing is that we talk about certain games like being pretentious, quote unquote, but I mean, and it's usually under the thing that people don't actually understand what that word actually means when they say it. But I mean, like, if anything, I feel like games like DMC are actually pretentious because DMC again tries to put up a message that it doesn't put the effort into actually like pushing.
Are we talking about DMC? Are we talking about DMC?
We finished talking about DMC. You missed it.
Oh my god, you should be
missed
so
that,
happy that I was not here for that because I got some words to say about DMC.
Actually, let me say my words about DMC. I think something that's really frustrating about politics as a subject in video games, and I'm just speaking abstractly here.
Yeah.
You know, like not even talking about like how games promote, you know, poisonous political viewpoints or whatever. That's even a different discussion that I'm not even necessarily the best person to write about.
Yeah.
But like, what was I gonna say? There's something that I think is frustrating is like I did see genuinely a few people who were kind of like, I didn't see anyone say like, oh, it's so like politically brilliant and insightful or whatever, but like I did see people who were kind of interested in you know, the fact that, you know, it did take on politics and like US politics in particular as its subject, and that like they found that interesting on its surface. And it's something that I find frustrating because politics have been a part of a game, have been parts of games from the beginning. Like I was talking to you, you know, we were talking earlier about like, you know, how JRPGs, for example, different JRPG franchises express political viewpoints, and a lot of it is subtextual and through mechanics and that sort of thing. And there's also just like how certain tropes are positioned to, represent certain political viewpoints. There's also the fact that like this is especially a very East-West divide thing because, to me at least, because there's I hate being so black-white about it, but I just feel like especially the themes and subtext of so many Japanese games are underwritten because of the Japaneseness of their aesthetic.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima is
guilty
the
of that too.
primary
Like,
victim of this.
I'm also guilty of just like looking at a lot of JRPGs and a lot of like Japanese action titles and going, I don't know, it just looks like maybe some Japanese developed games sometimes. That is something I'm guilty of too, and it's probably something that a lot of people tend to sort of. I think there is kind of a weird bias towards Japanese developed games, and I always find it kind of odd and interesting how we always have to make it known that it's a Japanese developed game. This is a Japanese developer, you know, as if there's like a ton of baggage that comes with it. I don't.
Yeah, like when you say that a game is like Japanese in a way, it makes it sound like, you know, oh well, that means all Japanese games have to be over the top, or they have to have nonsensical plot lines, or it has to be something that you can't take seriously, or that it can't have a message that could relate to something outside of Japan. It's like once you add that in, it's kind of like
because these games are about Japan.
Absolutely, I would definitely agree with that. But like simultaneously, like it all is still like. I guess you could say a similar thing happens with, like, I'm sure Western games get the same kind of, like, treatment in Japan in that, because we tend to kind of do the same thing, like, we just kind of focus on certain, I guess you could say we focus on certain qualities, and that kind of causes everything to blend together a bit, and, like, I don't know. It's weird. It's
just there's also this thing where people always assume that Japanese old games are unintuitive. That a lot of them just aren't well thought out in design, probably because they just have different design philosophies than we're used to. You know, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Like,
it just seems like there isn't a lot of effort put into what Japanese games actually attempt to do that's different. And I feel like maybe at least in mainstream spheres, because in mainstream sphere the divide between Japanese and non-Japanese is really big, right? Because you have big Japanese publishers and you have Western publishers, right? So I mean, it's this thing where I feel like there isn't a lot of respect of Japanese of the Japanese style of game. It's just like there isn't like people just don't take this idea of Japanese games seriously and this idea of a Japanese style very seriously. You know?
Because it's the most basic shit to talk about, but just because, you know, the characters in the Japanese video game have big fucking anime eyes does not mean that the game's not talking about something real.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, I mean, like, and this is especially important to me because there's so many, it's so connected to a number of things that have been an issue with how I relate to the games community for years. But for example, there's like, let me just talk about Final Fantasy VIII for just 5 minutes.
Okay.
No, go right ahead, please.
Go right ahead.
Final Fantasy VIII is like, the main character in Final Fantasy VIII is you know, he's a guy with depression. The game doesn't call it that, but like, if I had to say that any video game was about having depression, Final Fantasy VIII is about having depression.
Okay.
You know, and it's not necessarily like, you know, the healthiest or like most accurate representation of it necessarily, although, but I relate to it really strongly as someone with as you know, as someone with that thing. And it helps that the game like has a very late 90s aesthetic of cool that I just relate to, because it was just like, you know, there was the stuff that was cool that I thought was cool when I was growing up.